Hi, and welcome back to my channel, where I'm going to quickly explain how the optional class features provided by Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, or TCOE, works. Wait, what? That's right, I said optional class features. When Tasha's Cauldron of Everything was released, it incorporated some changes introduced through the Unearthed Arcana testing rules around additional features for almost all of the basic classes. These features fall into a couple of categories, and they are as follows: enhancements to existing features, new additional features, replacements of existing features, and a retraining of skills, features, or even changing your entire subclass. But first, we'll go over what it means to enhance existing features. There are several features that give a player a choice of how the given feature will function, and now, through TCOE, we have additional choices that are provided. Things like additional spell choices for several of the spellcaster classes, fighting styles for those in the melee range, or how Bardic Inspiration works are all enhancements to existing features, and you are simply being given additional choices related to them. For example, if we take a look at the fighting style options provided by the Rangers class, we can quickly see that we have the initial 4 options that we are given: dueling, tool weapon, fighting style, defense, archery. But then we have these additional options provided by the fighting style options feature called blind fighting, druidic warrior, and thrown weapon fighting. So instead of the usual 4 choices that you had for your fighting style, you can now choose from 7 different options. These are going to be relatively easy to identify because they will have the quote-unquote option in brackets listed after their actual feature name. So for example, we have spellcasting focus, additional ranger spells, and then the fighting style option that we'd already discussed earlier. Those are all enhancements to existing features that your character already has. There are, however, a few retraining features that are also listed under the quote-unquote option tag, so you're going to want to make sure that you're careful when you look through the various class features. I'll make sure that as I cover each class's optional features, I will point out which ones would be classified as retraining features. In the case of the Ranger, for example, it is the martial versatility option that you see there. It should be relatively safe to select these because generally a DM will allow these options to be available to you as you're going through and leveling your character, as long as they are implementing the changes that are provided by Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. When it comes to additional features, however, these are the ones a player can take alongside their other class features that they're gaining at the same level, potentially giving that character 2 or more features gained rather than the usual 1 or more features depending on the class. As a result, these ones could be considered game breaking as they are essentially a buff that changes how the existing class functions. These are generally identified with the full optional word being displayed in brackets after the name of a given feature, and they will have no indication within their description that they are replacing an existing feature. For example, let's take a look at this Barbarian class. We can see that we have Primal Knowledge, which is optional, and Instinctive Pounce, which is optional. These are additive features in the sense that you're going to gain them alongside the other features that you're gaining at the levels that they actually get acquired at. I believe it's level 3 and level 7. But let's take a look at these 2 features for their description. You can see that Primal Knowledge is giving us the ability to choose a new skill, whereas Instinctive Pounce is tweaking how our Rage feature works in that it's giving us half of our movement speed as part of our bonus action if we so choose. So you can see how they can adjust existing features, but they don't flat out replace existing features. This also means that a DM may not allow you to take those additional features, as they might adjust the party balance a little bit too much, or if they are allowing them, they might decide to award those features in lieu of magical equipment. But it's going to be entirely up to the DM. So essentially, a player should not assume that they're automatically going to be gaining those features. The DM should state, however, before the actual start of a new campaign, how they will be utilizing the optional features that are flagged as additional features. But if the module was added after the campaign had already been started, a conversation really should be had to discuss how those particular features will be handled. Now let's move on to what are called replacement features. These, on the other hand, are designed to force a player to make a choice between which variant of a feature they want to take. Once again, these are only going to be an option to the player if the Dungeon Master is allowing these features to be chosen, but it is also another discussion that needs to take place between you, the player, and the Dungeon Master. The features, however, will be clearly identified with the keyword optional replacement in brackets being displayed after the actual name of the feature, as well as clearly show in the description which feature they are meant to replace. So if we once again look at the Ranger class, down here at the bottom, we will see that there are 4 optional replacement features: Favored Foe, Deft Explorer, Primal Awareness, and Nature's Veil. These features replace Favored Enemy, Natural Explorer, Primeval Awareness, and Hide in Plain Sight, respectively. Meaning that you as the player would choose Favored Enemy or Favored Foe. You would choose Natural Explorer or Deft Explorer. You wouldn't get both of the options that are made available to you. It's an either-or situation. And if we look at the description of each of these, we can clearly see what feature they are meant to replace. And that is the case for all 4 of these particular features. You'll see it at the top of the description. Right here, and for Nature's Veil, right there. I do believe, however, that there were only a limited number of features that are tagged as optional replacement features, and the bulk of them are here in the Ranger class. Finally, in relation to retraining options, there are several different options that are now provided. With older supplements, when a player chose a given feature or skill that allowed a choice, that was it. The change was permanent, unless the DM had their own system for introducing changes to skills, features, or subclasses. However, with Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and its new rules that it's introducing, there is now a defined process for when players can decide to change what skills they're proficient in, what option of feature they had selected, as well as potentially their entire character subclass. And these rules can be found under Character Options and under Changing a Skill or Changing your subclass. The ones that adjust the features and potentially some other skills are generally going to be classified as retraining features within each class, and we'll get to those as we cover the various classes. However, this is not something that happens overnight when a party is resting. There are very specific conditions as to when this should take place, with the most common time frame being when players gain new ability score improvements. Additionally, when choosing different skill proficiencies, the skill chosen must be one provided by the class itself, a class feature that grants additional skill proficiencies, or a feature that provides the means to swap out those proficiencies, which would be the retraining features that we'll discuss when we get to each of the classes. Another restriction that is in place is really around when you are changing a given feature's option, such as the fighter's fighting style. The option itself must be provided by a feature replacement the player has chosen, or an enhancement of an existing feature or given feature. But the most complex change is when a player decides to change their entire subclass, as there are very specific guidelines as to when and how this should take place. The first is that a player can only change their subclass when they achieve a level where they would normally gain a new subclass feature. And this will be indicated in the actual class table. For example, let's go back to our Rangers table here. We can see here that we are gaining a Ranger archetype at level 3. Well, that would be kind of a dumb place to change out your actual archetype because you're in the process of actually selecting one. So let's say you decide to do that at level 7. That would be the next opportunity that you would have in order to actually change out your existing subclass. Additionally, however, the DM is going to require that your character spend an X amount of days equal to twice the new level. So if you've received a new subclass feature at level 5, for example, the Dungeon Master will most likely require you to take 10 days of dedicated training time for your character to actually switch over to the new subclass. And it might even be longer. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything says twice your actual new level, Doesn't mean the DM's going to stick to that. There will most likely be additional costs as well, such as an X amount of gold pieces multiplied by your level for monetary expenses, potentially magical reagents, or other forms of goods and services required to make that change. An example that the book provides is if you are a sorcerer and you're changing your draconic bloodline, it might require a vial of blood from an ancient dragon in order for you to actually make that change. But it is now possible to do in a more easily defined way for any DM that has not already built up their own method to handle those kinds of changes. So in conclusion, it's nice to see that there's now a defined process for making these kinds of changes, as well as provisions for additional features to better balance out some of the classes and provide more choices to players. This means those players can now create a character that best fits their playstyle, or even create a character that is way outside of their comfort zone so that they can get a larger amount of experience, not necessarily for their character, but for themselves, on playing different playstyles within a D&D campaign. I won't, however, be covering each of the class's optional features in this particular video. I'm going to break those up into smaller videos specific to each class so that they're easily identifiable and very quick to go through. That way, this particular video can be more around the introduction of what those optional features are in the sense of how they function, what types there are, that kind of thing. And then I will go through and give you specific details about what each individual class has for its new features. So keep an eye out for those additional videos where I will be getting into that level of detail and explain what their impact will be on a given class. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.